G'day everyone and welcome to the Before You Bet Racing Preview brought to you by PlayUp, taking a look at all of tomorrow's horse racing action at Flemington and Rosehill. I'm your host Tim Geers, as always joined by the smiling assassin Trent Crebbin, who is looking to bounce back from what proved to be a very tough day at Cranbourne on Wednesday. Trent, how's things?
Yeah, not too bad. Yeah, you're right. It was a tough week at Cranbourne. It's a tricky track, and I'm glad to be getting back to the wide open expanses of Flemington, and it's kind of got a bit of a spring feel in the air with Aurie Star Handicap, and over in Sydney we've got the Missile Stakes at Rosehill.
Yeah, you're spot on there. It's good to see some of the best horses returning. I echo those sentiments about springs in the air because it's been a lean few months over winter with some very, very tough racing. And it's good to finally get a sniff of the good racing that's just around the corner. As you've alluded to, the Aurie Star Handicap headlines the program at Flemington this weekend, where the track is currently rated a soft 5, I think, soft 6 with a rail out 11 metres. And over at Rosehill, we've got the Group 2 Missile Stacks with the track currently rated a soft 7, rail in the true position. However, there is a stack of rain predicted for Rosehill. We're predicting up to 30 millimetres of rain today before tomorrow's racing. So inevitably, the track will be in the heavy range as it is most Saturdays at the moment. It'd be very interesting to see what pattern does arise, if any. What are your thoughts with how Flemington's going to play with the rail all the way out in the 11-metre position?
I think it'll play pretty fairly. A rail out 10, 11 metres. I was looking at a stat the other day, and it was on-pace horses, midfield horses, and off-midfield horses, and it was 33% for each of the three groups. So I think, yeah, pretty fair. I think there is a bit of rain forecast as well. So I think we could be looking at closer to a soft 7 and quite rain-affected ground, despite the good draining at Flemington.
Very good. So we'll take you through our best bets of the day, punters, our best bet, best value, and we'll also take a quick look at both of the feature races at Flemington and Rosehill. Trent, we'll start with you over at Flemington. Your best bet comes up in race number 4. It's horse number 10, TAVIDANCE, currently $2.80. Beaten as the odds-on favourite last start.
Yeah, it was beaten at it was well back to that day as well at Caulfield. It started about $1.80, I think. It wasn't a pretty watch if you were on. It got stuck wide and back in the field as well. And that's never a good place to be at Caulfield because you just have to keep working up the hill and just around, and it's not a good track to be caught wide on. I've got a theory about TAVIDANCE is that he is a pure wet tracker. I don't think he likes good ground at all, and it was quite firm that day. And he presented, despite the work he did early, he presented into the race really nicely, tried to let down and just didn't find much in the straight. He's a horse that's had a few issues, and I think just getting his toe into the ground where he doesn't jar up as much on the firm tracks is going to be really suitable for him. Drawn barrier 1 here, Jamie Carr can just box seat. He's shown that he has a bit of tactical speed in the past. I think he'll just be box seating from barrier 1, and he's got 450 metres of the Flemington straight to find a gap, and I think he'll be too strong on the wet ground.
Okay, and your best value bet of the day. Now, here's one for your punters. Race 3, number 7, Dubai Moon at $26. Beaten 7 lengths, just under 2 lengths, and 5.5 lengths again last start at Bendigo in his 3 starts to date.
Yeah, the form guide doesn't read great for Dubai Moon. But we were jumping up to 1,800 metres here for the 3-year-olds, and none of them have seen the distance before. And I was just going through the field, and I think out of all the horses in the field, he's the one crying out for the extra distance. He's the one that looks like the proper stayer of the field. I'm forgiving his last start where he kind of jumped with them midfield, but just got shuffled back when everything tried to go around him and got spat out the back of the ruck there, just behind horses, about 15 lengths off the leaders as they turned for home. Held his ground in the straight. I think he's looking for further. The start before that, he was actually only about 1.5 lengths off Frankie Two Angels and Ruba, who are both well in the market here. I think they're about $5 and $8 in the market. And he did run the best 800 metres and 400 metres of that race. And yet he's about 4 times their price here. So I think he's going to really enjoy the 1,800 metres. Ben Allen replaces Aaron Lynch as well. So it's probably a positive jockey change there. And I think he'll be right in the finish at a great each-way price.
Fair case made. We'll move on to the day's feature race. It is the Group 3 Aurie Star Handicap in race number 6. And you're with Twitter's favourite horse, number 1, Sosabon. I can't say he's a fan favourite from mine, but he seemed to find form at the back end of last preparation. Or since he's become a gelding, he's actually raced in some fairly consistent form, which was unlike him. And You're also having something on number 8, Trope, first up for the Julius Sandu camp, having previously been with Team Hawks.
Yeah, I'll start with Sosi Bond, who actually won this race last year, quite dominantly as well. Did carry 55.5 kilos there, jumps up to 60 kilos here. I think that's a warranted weight given the quality of races he's been taking on. And you look at his record since he's been gelded and away from Group 1 races, because I don't think he's not a Group 1 horse. He's probably a Group 2 horse. And you look at his record away from those Group 1 races, and it's actually quite good. He loves wet ground as well. He can sprint well first up. Won this race last year, as I said. And I think he looks a good bet and has been well supported in early markets as well. Over to number 8, Trope. Just a bit of a speculative bet here. The horse has shown a lot of talent in his, I think he's only had 9 starts in his career. Showed a lot of promise with some really big finishes from back in the field. Did run the handy sprinter Deprive to a nose second, and also ran second to Arcadia Queen in the Group 2 Theo Marks last year. Came over to Melbourne for a few runs, all in Group 1 company, the Manikato, Oakley Plate and Newmarket Handicap, and was well beaten in all of them. Obviously had a few issues, goes over to the Sandu camp. I watched his jump outs and I thought they were very quiet, and I thought there's just maybe something there that he could fire first up here. He's certainly got the talent to do so, and I think he's a good enough price to find out if he's back to his best.
Well, you're not the only one in the camp of Sosa Bond, because he opened double figures at least around $15, and he's already been backed into around $8 or $8.50. So, as I said, he is Twitter's favourite horse, so there probably is going to be a bit of popularity for him. And as for Trope, well, they'd probably want to fire first up, given they shelved out about $200,000 for him on an online sale. So he is an interesting runner. I agree with you. It is a decent little field there for the Aurie Handicap, and for one time in my life, I'll be cheering Sosa Bond home. Normally when I back him, though, he loses, so that doesn't give you any confidence. As I said, he's been a hard horse for me to catch throughout my time. But anyway, we'll see what he does. He won this race first up last prep, or last year, I should say. So we'll see what he does. We'll move over to Rosehill and get into my best bets of the day. I'm going to try and fire early once again this week. Race 1, number 1, Dancing Gidget is going to be my best bet of the day. I had to toss up once again, as I do most weeks, about what's going to be my best bet. In fact, it's number 2, Dancing Gidget, race 1, number 2. This mare's just come back really well this preparation. She's had 2 starts on the Kensington and then at Rosehill last start, and she's won both very well. First up, she was well backed. She came from back in the field and sprinted very quickly down the outside to put them away pretty easily. She backed up that effort again last start at Rosehill over 1,400 metres. Again, she came from back in the field. Ran on strongly and got there to win by just under a length. I think the step up in distance to 1,500 is no issue at all. In fact, it's probably a good thing for her. She's shown this preparation that wet ground is no issue for her. Both wins have been on a soft 7 and a heavy 8. She's won her only start at this track. Yes, she does go up to 60 kilos. J-Mac replaces Hugh Bowman, but J-Mac rode her first up with 60 kilos and won. And I just think she, like most Waller horses, the further they go into their preparation, the more they continue to improve. So I think there's probably still a little bit under the bonnet. And I don't think there is a great deal to this race. There are a lot of horses that appear to be in form. But I actually question some of the form out of those races. I think Matawa Takpe goes better at Warwick Farm than what she does anywhere else. Vienna Rain comes off a couple of Wyong wins. She's going to be up on speed, but I'm pretty happy to take her on. Iger comes out of a highway handicap. This is a whole different class of horse. Paper Warrior, Dancing Gidget was able to beat her last start. Does get a 2.5 kilo weight swing, but I'd be happy to stick with Paper Warrior off Dancing Gidget off that. Rothenberg, another highway winner, a couple of starts ago. And then you get down to Witness Collectos, probably outclassed here. And Montefilia is probably the interesting runner. Scratched last week because of the way the track was playing. Caused an uproar on Twitter and set a very interesting precedent for horses going forward. Comes here second up, but again, the form out of that race first up, I think, is questionable. I actually tipped her last week before she was scratched, but We saw her run third behind Giovanna Run and Bazooka. Bazooka could only come out and run fifth last weekend. So that form does have a little bit of a question mark against it, especially because Giovanna Run won that race leading on a day at Kensington where you had to lead to win, basically. So everything takes me back to Dancing Gidget. As I said, Waller horses typically improve the further they go in preparation. And even though she does carry the top weight here, 60 kilos, I think she can win again. She's currently at around $3.50. I think that's a good enough price, and happy to make her my best of the day in race number 1. Now, here's a couple for you. If you thought Trent's best value bet of the day was a bit out there, I'm going to go one better. My best value, race 3, we're going to play in the Highway Handicap, which is normally a race I really struggle in, so that probably tells you all you need to know. But I'm going to throw out a couple at massive odds here. They're both from the same stable, in fact. They're horses 16 and 17. 16 is Tuscan Light, currently $151. And number 17, Treasure the Love, currently around $31. Already backed in from about $61 yesterday. Now, bear with me because we're talking about 2 runners. First, we'll go to Tuscan Light. Finished 10th and 8th in her 2 starts this preparation. But you do notice last preparation, her only career win came 3rd up from a spell. She was beaten out of sight 1st and 2nd up. She came out 3rd up over the mile on soft ground and posted a 2.5 length victory. So I'm tipping with those 2 runs under the belt at Moruya and Canberra, she's had a couple of blowouts and she's coming here 3rd up from a spell, straight to town on rain-affected ground, draws barrier 1. And I think she'll improve sharply just as she did last preparation. We get down to the stablemate Treasure the Love. And again, she's also had 2 starts back from a spell and has been relatively uncompetitive. But again, if you look at her record, she's had 12 starts when either 1st or 2nd up from a spell and is yet to run a place in any of those. But 3rd up from a spell, she's won once and run 2nd once from 4 starts. So that tells me that she does improve with 2 runs under the belt. She did so last preparation when she came with a good run at Queanbeyan, albeit she was still beaten a fair margin, but she managed to run 2nd on that occasion, and her only career win did come on heavy ground. So I'm tipping the ground is going to be somewhere around a heavy 10, which can sometimes throw out enormous results, and I'm praying that these are one of them. So jot them down. Race 3, number 16, Tuscan Light, $151, and number 17, Treasure the Love, around $31. Trent, do you like it, or what are your thoughts on that?
Good luck. I can't see it, but I'd rarely bet in the Highway Handicap. So I think you could probably do worse than have $5 on each one and just pray.
Yeah, I'm a bit with you in the highways. I tend to steer clear of them, but $1 or $2 each way. We'll see how we go. We'll move on to the day's feature at Rosehill. It is the Group 2 Missile Stakes over 1,200 metres. It's race number 7 on the card. We've got a really good field for this. As we've alluded to at the start of the show, a few of the really good quality horses starting to show their heads again. We've got the likes of Melody Bell going around here. He's currently the favourite at around $4. What to do with her is one question, but I'll quickly get on to my selection for the race, which is horse number 5, FLIT, currently at $5.50. This 4-year-old mare, she won 1st up last preparation in the Group 2 Lightfinger Stakes over this distance at Randwick, 1,200 metres. Notably, on that occasion, she was 1st up with the blinkers on for the first time. And that was probably the best performance we've seen from her in quite some time. They've gone with the same tactic here, resuming 1st up with the blinkers reapplied. James McDonald goes straight on board after just one trial. So they've basically taken the same path to what they did for that race at Randwick back in February. And I think that's going to be a winning move once again. Now, there is some concern about how heavy this track is going to be, especially for a horse like her 1st up from a spell. But if you go through the field, about 80% of the horses here are 1st up. So I'm tipping her to show the same kind of dynamic turn of foot or the same kind of form she showed 1st up in that race at Royal Randwick. And as I've said, 1st up, blinkers on once again, J-Max straight on, barrier 1, I think can be a winning move. She's never finished out of the top 2 from her 5 starts over this distance. So I think $5.50, you can back her probably each way at those odds. Pretty confident that she's in the finish. And I think that's a pretty good price for her. Trent, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I'm really with you there. I sent out a tweet a couple of days ago, I think, saying that I thought FLIT was the one to beat in the missile. Obviously, huge respect for Melody Bell. I'll let you touch on her in a sec, but yeah, I think FLIT can win first up again.
Yeah, I suppose there's been a lot of talk about Melody Bell, especially on Twitter. Seems that everyone is very keen to take her on. She probably opened up a touch short. The interesting thing is you look at her first up record and it suggests on paper that it's very good. 7 starts, 3 wins and 3 minor placings. But it has been a while since she's won first up from a spell. You go back through her preparations and she's only been running sort of third or thereabouts in New Zealand. She ran third at Caulfield in the Futurity Stakes, first up last preparation. So whether she's really, now that she's a 6-year-old, whether she's really that sharp first up from a spell is the query. And I think that's why everyone's keen to take her on. What she does get in her favour is the ground, because she absolutely loves the heavy ground. On wet tracks, she's had 18 starts for 11 wins. So she's going to get things to suit. But from barrier 11, you'd be very surprised to see them ride her aggressively out of the gates first up over 1,200 metres. So I think they'll be negative. They'll go back from barrier 11. 1,200 is probably a little bit short of her best these days. She probably needs 1,400 or 1,600 now. So I think that's why everyone's going to take her on. I do think you'll get a better price. If she gets out to around $5 or $6, which I think there's a very realistic chance she might, I think then you can step in and probably have a bet. But I'll be letting her go around at the current quote of $4. As I said, would rather side with FLIT at around $5.50, who is likely to settle in the front half of the field. And Melody Bell will be giving her a head start, I would have thought. Thoughts on that?
Yeah, I agree. The 1,200 as well. She doesn't have a great record at the distance, like in Australia anyway, and she always seems to kick off her preparation over 1,400. And I just think the 1,200 here, she's just going to be hitting the line strongly. Probably run a nice 3rd or 4th. But yeah, just look for a next start in the Wink Stakes. I think she'll be winning that next start.
There you go. There's an early tip for you. As I said when we first started talking about the race, the interesting factor is that if you go through the field, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 of the 12 runners here are first up from a spell. So the only 3 that aren't first up are Eduardo, who won first up last start in its first start for Joe Pride, Glenall, who ran 3rd, and Signore Fox, who comes off a win at Grafton in the morning handicap. So typically on heavy ground and a track that may be this wet, that adds kind of a different layer to the race in that, 9 of the 12 runners are first up from a spell, and probably definitely the classiest horses in the race are first up. So the 3, it'll be interesting to see how they go, the 3 horses that are race fit, especially Eduardo. There's been some early backing from him for about 550 into 460 or so. And I think that's probably why that he's the race fit horse, comes off a win, which was his first start for the new stable. So yeah, it'd be interesting to see how he measures up. It's a very good race. It's great to see some of the good horses returning, and hopefully that sets the tone for the next few weeks. But for me in the Group 2 Missile Stakes, I'll be with FLIT, $5.50. I suspect she will start much shorter than that. Wouldn't surprise me to even see her start around favourite. So I think take that price now, and hope she gets the job done once again. Trent, any other thoughts before we leave for this week?
No, that's it. I think looking forward to next week as well. I think we've got the PB Lawrence Stakes at Caulfield. I believe that's next week. So can't wait to get stuck into that as well. Have a good day tomorrow, and hopefully it's a fill-up.
Yes, the PB Lawrence Stakes next week, where we'll see the first of the WA Brigade lining up over in the Eastern States. Bob Peters has sent over 5 or 6 of his best horses from WA, and we'll see the first of those go around next week. And the PB Lawrence, sure to be a cracker. Head to beforeyoubet.com.au. You'll find my preview for Rosehill in Sydney and Trent's rundown of Flemington in Melbourne. Make sure if you are having a bet this week, you do so responsibly. Subscribe to our YouTube channel so you don't miss anything. And we'll catch you all once again next week.